And appreciate everyone gathering on short notice. But obviously, with the news of this morning, we've restarted our search, and we're full speed ahead to find the right fit for Oregon football. We'll move as expeditiously as possible, but we do not have a specific timeline as to when we'll be complete. Obviously, we're going to follow the appropriate policies and procedures relative to the university. And we'll maintain the confidentiality of the candidates, just as we ask them to maintain confidentiality. So we won't talk specifically about entity candidates, and then when we have an announcement, we'll present it to you.
Last time we did this a few days ago, you expressed pleasure, I guess, in the fact that you'd been kept in the loop the whole way. It sounds like you heard about this morning. I'm going to assume Philly didn't call Chip this morning. Do you still feel like you were kept as much in the loop as you could have been?
Well, I don't exactly know what the loop is. I know that you're exactly right. I got a call at 7:15 this morning from Chip, and that was the first I've heard of anything of Philly since we last talked about that he was staying.
So, I mean, is there any disappointment then that apparently some negotiations have been going on and you weren't?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it is what it is, and we're here moving forward. We're not going to worry about what happened. He made a decision that was best for him, and we wish him well. He's been great for Oregon football, and we're moving on.
You said you were ecstatic. Are you now somewhat disappointed? I mean, what would you describe your range of emotions?
Again, I've turned the page. So I was surprised when I got the call this morning. But as a leader of this organization, my focus is on moving forward, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I'm laser focused on what's next, finding the right fit to lead Oregon football.
Rob, what do you think?
AJ.
Oh, Rob, what is your timetable for getting this job search done?
We'll move as fast as we can, but obviously, there's various steps that we have to take. I don't have a specific timeline because these things can take different twists and turns, and I'm not going to set some arbitrary date. Obviously, we are very aware of where we are in the recruiting period, the critical nature of finding the next leader. But again, we're going to be thorough. We're going to find the right person, and we'll follow all of the policies.
Mike, Rob, 10 days ago, Chip was turning down 2 offers reportedly, and he was staying. He was your coach. What do you suppose in the last 10 days, or what did he tell you changed in the last 10 days?
The only thing our conversation was about this morning is he relayed to me that he's thought long and hard over it the last 10 days. And in fact, it was a challenge that he always wanted to take, which I think he shared with you and with me, and that he wasn't sure if that opportunity would present itself again. So he felt like this was the right one at the right time.
Warren.
Rob, you said in the conversation earlier that Chip did meet with the team this morning at 8 o'clock. Can you share what that meeting was like and what players were in that meeting?
Well, it was an all-player workout, so I didn't take attendance, but there was a lot of folks there, so I assume everyone who's here in training was there. It was the majority of the team, if not all of the team, and he just shared with them his decision. And they're very respectful, as they always are. Everybody wants what's best for Chip, and he relayed to them as I relayed to them. This has always been about the players. This is a player-driven culture and a player-driven organization, and he expressed confidence in the future.
Rob, when you spoke this morning, was there any sense of, hey, you have a chance to counter an offer or anything like that, or I mean, his mind had been made up?
The decision was made when he called me.
Okay. Can you relate what you'd be looking for in the next candidate? I mean, do you want somebody that runs similar offensive style philosophy, for instance?
Yes. I mean, the offense has been successful, but that's not the only requirement. And what we want is someone who understands the culture. It is unique here, not only within our football program, but within our community. Want someone who has proven excellence, who's been around winning programs, who knows what it takes, because the expectations for this program have shifted. And we want to compete for Pac-12 championships, and we want to be in BCS bowls. And so we want someone who understands what that takes from A to Z, from recruiting to creating a culture of academic excellence to understanding the role of that team in this department and in this community, and then, of course, on field success.
AJ.
You mentioned the awareness of time of year, specifically with regards to recruiting. What steps can we take during this coaching search process to minimize any potential negative impacts on it?
Well, we're fortunate to have a very veteran group of coaches, and we've had great continuity. And those coaches are all on the road, and they'll continue to stay on the road. Obviously, assistant coaches are the ones who build the relationships initially with these student athletes, and our coaches will continue to do that.
George.
Rob, when you got the phone call, I guess after last week, did you feel like this was done for the year? Did you did you kind of feel settled? And then when you got the phone call, did anything cross your mind as the number popped up, like uh-oh, or?
When he had called me the Sunday after the Fiesta Bowl, I did think that was it, because he had been very thorough in his exploration, and he explained to me that he had been very thorough, and that he had arrived at his decision. So I thought that was the end of it. But ironically enough, someone asked me within the last couple of days, was I relieved? And I said, I'm not going to be relieved until all NFL jobs are filled. So not expecting this to happen, but in fact thinking that.
Stephen.
When, in terms of looking for your next candidate, how much of it is going to be a national search and how much of it is going to be an in-house search? Obviously, Mark Helfrich's name keeps popping up in terms of that. Is he going, is he going to interview, or other assistant coaches going to interview? What's the process going to be like?
Well, we have a number of internal candidates. I mean, we've had a staff that's been highly successful for a long period of time. So we've got several coaches on our staff who are, who have the experience and background to be head coaches. And those that express interest we'll obviously talk to, because they've played a key role in our success. But we will also talk to others outside of our program.
Jordan.
You mentioned the assistant coaches and moving forward. Has there been any indication or discussion of coaches going with him, like Coach has?
No, I mean, obviously there's speculation, but I'm not aware of anything specific yet.
Adam.
I think you talked last week too, but with all the speculation and said Chip had obviously kept you in the loop building up to the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, do you feel like you have a head start on all of this already? I mean,
absolutely. We had already done a lot of groundwork. We had already really started the process with knowing, in fact, that Chip was going to be talking to the Eagles, Bills, and Browns while in Phoenix. So we had geared up our process. Obviously, we shut it down, but it's easy to click right back on.
Chris.
To be clear, prior to today in the conversation that you had with Coach Kelly this morning, was the last time that you spoke with Coach Kelly, was that the Sunday when he informed you?
Well, no, we work in the same department, so we talked other times, but that was the last time we had spoken about NFL. Yes.
Tom.
Rob, how concerned are you now with the continuity of the program going forward? As everyone knows, it's been it's kind of transpired over the years. Sure. One thing passed to the other, and how important is that to you as you make this big decision?
It's extremely important to me because it has played a key role, but it's not the only factor. So it's something, these are complex, and so there's a lot of factors, a lot of variables that will weigh in. It won't be the only one, but it's one that we will give serious consideration.
Jerry.
Yes. Were you contacted by any other head coaches from around the country interested, even when the rumors were that Chip might be leaving and now that he is leaving? Have you had any contact today?
No, I have not had anyone. No, I have not had any head coaches contact me directly. I've gotten plenty of search firms that have contacted me.
Michael.
Rob, are you, to a much lesser degree, relieved that this is over now and it's not something you have to worry about next year going forward? Because it seemed like it would be a yearly occurrence with Chip.
Yeah, I don't think in those terms. Again, if it's where Chip's heart is, if Chip's heart's in the NFL, then that's where he belongs. He's been great for the University of Oregon. I've enjoyed working with him. I have great respect for him as a person, as a coach. And my focus is on making sure that the University of Oregon gets the next great leader of the football program.
Rob Mosley.
You mentioned search firms. Do you retain one?
No.
So you guys
Not
handle
yet.
it yourselves?
Let me say, not yet.
Do you plan to?
Not at this point, but again, I wouldn't rule anything out.
And do you name an interim coach?
No, we have a very veteran staff with a set organizational structure. It's very efficient and very effective. So we have an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator who manage each side. If there's something that was needed in the interim that they couldn't figure out collectively, I'm sure I could offer assistance.
AJ.
Last time there was a changing coaches here at the University of Oregon. There's a succession plan in place. Now with the new state law, you can't necessarily do it like that, or you can't do it like that. You said you're not going to. Would you consider that were it not for the state law saying you need to interview certain people?
The policies and procedures are what they are, so I haven't spent any time thinking about what I would do if they weren't in place. Obviously, we're going to follow them, and we are where we are, and we understand the path, and we're going to have a clear process.
Aaron.
How would the decision to hire someone be made? Would it be solely by you, or would it be other people involved, coaches involved? Would it be someone who has to maintain a lot of the staff? How would you make that decision?
Well, I mean, obviously we're going to involve other people. I'm going to make a lot of calls. I already have made a lot of calls. I've talked to a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I'll have a recommendation that I'll share with the president. What was the second part of the question? Okay.
Dan.
We know how loyal Chip Kelly is. Did he put in a plug for anybody on his way out the door like Mark Elfrich?
No, he didn't put any specific plug. I mean, he was very clear that he thinks we have the best staff in college football, and that there were multiple qualified candidates within the staff, but he didn't put in a specific plug.
Has he done that in the past?
No.
Warren.
Rob, to the extent that you can you talk about the buyout process for returns or numbers of $3.5 million? Do you expect to hear from the Eagles? How does that work?
I mean, there is a buyout clause in the contract, and I don't know whether it'll be managed by the Eagles or by the coach. I mean, our contract is with the coach, and the obligation rests with the coach. So, it's a very specific term. So, it's really on the coach.
Is there a time frame you expect to be reimbursed for that?
Again, the clause is very specific that it's paid over the term of the remaining term of the contract. Yeah. So, if you get the contract, it lays it out.
Stephen Alexander. What?
Rob, obviously, you're dealing right now with some NCAA issues and sanctions and that sort of thing. Do you expect that to at all affect the search for a new coach?
No, I don't.
The fact that this school has gone from Coach Brooks, Coach Bellotti, Coach Kelly so smoothly and efficiently, does it make Coach Helfrich a clubhouse leader at the very least?
I don't think there's any leader. Obviously, as we've talked about, the two previous successions that you've talked about, as well as the continuity on the staff and the number of veterans that we've had that have contributed to the growth and the solid foundation that we sit on today. Of course, we're going to have internal candidates, but we don't have a leader in the clubhouse.
Try to avoid some chaos. Please just wait till the microphone gets your way. Tom Ward.
Rob, you mentioned that you have a unique situation here. Everything's unique, the football program, the athletic department. Do you risk, to some extent, sort of blowing that up if you go out and hire someone who doesn't know Mark Elfrich, doesn't know Nick Alluti, those kinds of things?
Well, I mean, hey, there's risk in all of this, and we're going to take all the information we can to make the best decision that we can. And our focus is making sure that we continue on the path that we've been, which is conference championships and BCS bowl games. So, we'll weigh a lot of factors. And again, continuity will matter, style of play will matter, past success will matter. All those things will weigh in.
Jerry.
So basically what I'm hearing is, despite what has been reported in the last couple of weeks about a succession plan, that you're not just going through the motions, that you are going to be searching for someone. There is no candidate who has...
We will be interviewing multiple candidates, yes.
Don't believe everything you read in the media. Go ahead, Jerry.
Obviously, this would just as a possible criteria for choosing someone in-house, if you did, would you be up to making a poll of the current players just to see what their feeling is on who they would like? I know that's not a good... Obviously, the input of players matters, but will we be running a poll? No, we're not looking for a popularity vote.
Tom Ward.
Sorry, I forgot what I was going to ask you. Your popularity vote, that was pretty good.
You think about it? Hey,
Yeah.
Dan Christopherson in the back there, if you don't mind getting the...
You're any concern about the recruiting process here, 3 weeks away from recruiting day, and what your message is to recruits out there, and I assume coaches are contacting those guys?
Yeah, the timing is less than ideal, no doubt. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a critical period. So, but our assistant coaches are on the road; they'll remain on the road, and the recruiting process will continue. That's why we want to move as quickly as possible to find the right leader. But we're not going to sacrifice the future of the program, just on a specific timeline.
In the back, Joe.
You said last week when we talked, you've been contacted by 2 other colleges that are interested in Mark as head coach. Do you feel like if you don't make a move on him fast, you may lose him?
Well, both of those jobs are filled, so that's a possibility, always a possibility. Again, we're not going to be driven by timeline. We're going to be thorough. We're going to find the right person, the right fit for Oregon football.
Phil Alani.
You mentioned that, even Dave mentioned you can't believe everything that you see in the media. Even last time when you were here, you kind of called us out a little bit about rumors and stuff like that. Do you feel now that you were misled at all a little bit throughout this whole process?
No, I do not feel misled at all. I think it's, again, as I mentioned last time, I think the process is going exactly as is. And, we had a candid conversation this morning. I think he continued to, after the decision, he continued to wrestle with it. And at the end of the day, over the next 10 days, he wanted the challenge. He felt like this might be the right opportunity and this might be the last chance.
Sorry. That being said, what is your message to Oregon fans who did think that he was going to be back?
My message, Oregon fans are some of the most loyal and passionate in all of sports, and we're fortunate to have them. They've been here a very, very long time, and I'm confident, because I've heard from a number of them already, that they're very proud of where we are, and they're committed to where we're going in the future, and they trust that we'll find the right leader.
Eric Elker.
When was the last time you heard from the NCAA about possible sanctions, and how much do you envision having to talk about that with potential candidates?
Again, I think we've said, feels like a million times, we have pledged our full commitment to the process, which means that we can't talk about the process. And we'll continue to do that. I don't think it'll be a significant conversation with candidates.
Michael.
Do you feel, because you were not a part of the process previously, that this is your chance now to make probably the biggest hire you'll ever make, and possibly take the reins over something where somebody maybe else had the reins for a while?
Yeah, no, I don't feel that way at all. This is about the organization. This is not about me. Oregon football is important to the athletic department and to the university. It plays a big role in our success, our visibility. And again, I'm not going to be out there doing this all alone. I'm going to get a lot of input, a lot of opinions. But of course, it's a key hire, and of course, we take it very seriously.
Warren Williams.
Rob, you talked about this morning that you had a conference call with some of the assistant coaches. Can you shed some insight on what that conversation was like, what their reaction was, maybe from Coach Aliotti, which coaches you spoke?
Yeah, well, we set up a conference call because they're all over the country, and I felt the need to make sure that we had an open dialogue. I talked to all the assistants the weekend that we got back from the Fiesta Bowl as Chip was doing the interviews in Phoenix, and if I learned anything last year, it was that I didn't communicate well enough with the assistant coaches. They felt out of the loop. So I made a pledge at that point to them and to myself that I would keep them in the loop as best I could, knowing that some information is confidential. So we set up a conference call mid-morning, mostly so I could tell them what I knew. By the time we got to it, I think much of what I knew had already been reported. And then I wanted to make sure that I could answer any of their questions. Again, there have been an awful lot of people who've committed an awful lot to the success of this program, and they're critical, and this impacts them. This is, everybody always focuses on one person, but this has an impact on a lot of people, a lot of staff. I also met with the sports staff this afternoon that works closely with football. Again, just to make sure that we get their questions answered and they know exactly what's happening.
Rob Mosley.
I got a question, if I can follow up on that real quick. I guess I'm surprised. I would think you would expect that the head coach would be keeping his assistants in the loop as to what his future is because it impacts them so closely. So is that what you learned last year, that's not what happens?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that I needed to take a more active role in communicating with what I knew. I do know that after he met with the team, Chip fully intended to call all of them.
So had he spoken to them by the time you
I
had your
don't know the
conference
answer to that. I didn't ask that question.
If I get to my original question, your confidence that the NCAA issues won't be a factor, and I realize you can't talk about the process, but I think that's eye-opening. I mean, does that stem from the fact that you just think a coach just won't be scared off by that no matter the situation, or is that an indication of your level of confidence that the process will play itself out?
No, I think we do things the right way here. I think most people in the industry absolutely understand that, and I just have confidence that industry-wide people know what's going on here, and people are doing it the right way.
For current players who may have been shocked about the news, still have additional questions, are there any resources that you brought in from the outside to kind of explain everything that's going on, or what that process, say a player wants to come and talk about what's going on with the status of the program?
Well, we have a number of staff who are still here, both on the coaching staff, on the administrative support staff, and I visited with the players, laid out for them what I've shared with you today, and in fact told them I'm available anytime anybody has any input or any questions. So I will remain available to them and the staff, and they have a number of other support staff around who can help them.
Tom Ward, Rob, are you worried at all about the perception that Chip leaving now with the NCAA thing on the horizon, that's like kind of staying one step ahead of the law, so to speak?
No, I don't think that was a factor in his decision.
What sort of timetable will the new coach have to maintain Chip Kelly's success that he's had over the last 3 years, like number of years? Or?
I mean, we're not putting. You're asking me what I'm already going to require the next head coach to do?
Yeah, how long until he's legally capable to do it?
Yeah, I'm not thinking about that today.
Sean,
are you allowed to talk to potential candidates about the NCAA situation?
No, I'll be very restricted in what I can share. Yes.
any more questions?